Hi, we're going to talk today about the right tool for the right report. So today what we'll cover is an introduction, the considerations and consequences that you'll need to consider when you're creating reports, the options that are available, so we'll demo both Jet Reports and Power BI. We'll also cover pricing and also an overview. So Pearl Zhu, the author of the Digital Master book series, he quoted, "We are moving slowly into an era where big data is the starting point, not the end." Which leads us nicely on to the fact that reporting is here to stay, it's not going to go away, and in order to create those business decisions at the right times, we need to put in as much consideration into creating those reports. So considerations. Firstly, you need to consider who that report is being sent to and who that audience is. You need to make sure that you pitch it at the right level. So if you're doing it to a CEO, then obviously the top level figures really at an overview of what they're probably going to look for. Whereas the colleague who sits next to you may want that data able to be drilled into so that we can get further insights into the data. Secondly, what is it that you're trying to say in your report? So a phrase I use quite often is, what story are we trying to tell? So throughout the creation of your report, make sure that the story is still at the forefront of all design. Also, are you going to need to manipulate the data? If you are, Power BI lends itself quite nicely to amending the data types and also changing the names of column fields to make it more user friendly. Also, data manipulation in Excel with Jet Reports. You can also use the Excel functions, which we'll go through in our demo a little later. Fourth, do you need to make that report portable? So will your audience need to see that on the move, using tablets or their mobile phones? If so, Power BI lends itself quite nicely to this, as well as Excel, depending on how you want to distribute your reports via an Office 365 subscription or through a Power BI subscription. Fifth, you need to consider the cost. So you need to make that consideration at the start, otherwise you might pay quite a price for changing between Power BI or Jet as your preferred solution. 6. Embedded reporting. So are you going to need to embed that report within NAV or BC itself, or is it something that can sit outside of the whole operation? So moving on to the consequences. So when you are designing your report, you must make sure that you don't hinder the performance of NAV or BC when trying to manipulate data and pull it through into your preferred solution. Ways to do that are to make sure that you only pull back the information that you really do need. Any more than that, and you may start to hinder and impact performance. Secondly, you need to look into what data insights you're trying to show. Those data insights need to be clear and insightful, otherwise you might lead into point number 5, where you've invested so much time into getting the insight right that the quality of information is misbalanced, and unfortunately it may be that you aren't selling that initial story that you were trying to tell. Number 3, usability. So what are your users who are going to receive this report? What is their level of technological knowledge? Do they need to be able to understand fully how the queries are working on the back end, or is it purely just a quick view and then close, and that is all their interaction is with that report? Number 4, the timeliness of when you receive that information. So if you're selling a story that's really, really impactful, but it's not being shown at the right time, this can also impact on business decision. and as we've already covered within number 2, but again, if you invest so much time into something, make sure you invest it wisely, otherwise you might find that your quality of information may downgrade itself. So moving on to our options and demos, we will start with Jet Reports, and then secondly we'll move on to Power BI and Power BI Mobile. Okay, so within Jet Reports there is a tab within Excel that is kindly created for you as a report designer, and so we're just checking here that we're in the correct BC version and also the correct company, which we are. We'll use Cronus in this example. Okay, so firstly we'll go into Fast Financials, and this is where you can use the chart of accounts in order to select single or multiple account numbers depending on what report and story you're trying to tell. So we're going to tell the story of sales, and so we just select our account numbers we want and we just drop and drag that straight into our Excel sheet. And when we're happy we can close that window. So we have a report there which also includes filters in an options tab which has been predetermined for us. So the values there. We'll move back to our actual report page and we'll click run just so we can see what that looks like. So your report options then become a window itself, and you also have the ability to look up values which assists the user when selecting filters. We'll click on sales just to show how that runs, and also you can enter in a start date and end date, and also use your global dimensions within your reports for filtering. So we'll click run. Okay, so that's run, so we'll go back to design mode. And so we'll move on to our table builder. So table builder has a nice function within it. So as long as you're aware of which tables you need to pull through in order to tell your story. In this example, we'll start with item. And it's quite nice because you get the search bar there, which allows you to quickly navigate to tables should you need it. Then we'll also add in vendor into here. So we'll click on add table again and type in vendor, and we'll select the table. Okay, and then we will then move into the item table again and start to select the fields we want to pull through. So it's a simple search and a tick in a box, which allows us to then start pulling through the story that we're trying to show. What you'll notice here as well is when we've clicked onto the item table, we can see there's a linkage here. That linkage is automatically created by Jet Reports, which is a handy feature so that you don't have to understand the relationships between the tables on the back end of your nav or BC. Okay, so I'm just adding in my final field. And as mentioned before, we should add filters in so that we don't pull back hundreds of amounts of data. So we'll add in a date filter. So we'll pull through from the 1st of the 1st, 2021. This is our test system, to the 1st of December 2021. And we'll tick the user defined box. The user defined box means that the options window that we saw earlier in our previous filter we'd created, it allows us to then change that upon runtime. So we've done that as well for location filter. The asterisk means that it pulls through every possible location that we have within our nav or BC solution, and we'll pull through sales that don't equal 0. notice we haven't ticked the user defined on that specific filter. So when you use the table builder, it is handy to save that so that when you do need to come back and essentially amend it, you don't have to start from scratch again. So once we're happy, we'll then click run. And as you can see, because we've ticked user defined, we get our date filters and our location filters. And then we have a nice table that pulls through all of our data, which can still be filtered again using the Excel functionality. And one thing to note is the order that you enter your field names in, it will generate in that specific order. It can be amended if you choose to add in extra fields at a later date. So we'll just go back to the design mode, and that is essentially Jet Reports. Okay, so moving on. This is Power BI Desktop, which is downloadable from the Windows Store. And we'll select an OData feed, which we have already pre-exposed as part of the out-of-the-box features within BC or NAV. So we're pulling through some item details, as well as the sales for those particular items and the salesperson code and their name. Once we're happy that we're pulling through the correct OData feed, we can then either click load or transform data. When you click transform data, you're able to then amend and manipulate your data to suit you and the story you're trying to tell. So in this case, when you pull through OData, it does pull through auxiliary indexes, which aren't required within reporting. So we'll just delete those. Okay, so they're now deleted. Also, we have currency description, which isn't spelled correctly, so we'll just go in and amend and add a C in there. And down the right hand side, you can see that the steps that you're performing are recorded, so you can move back a step and remove steps. We've just added in posting date there as a date field, and we'll also change the amount to a decimal amount. Once we're happy, we'll then close and apply those changes. And so this is all in real time within our test system. So this in essence will create a data set model for us so that we can then start to use that to pull in data and create visualizations. So down the right hand side there, you can see query 1 is the OData feed we've just pulled through, along with all of our amendments. So we'll start with a table. We'll click on the table, and then it's a simple tick in the box to pull through the fields. So we've just pulled through salesperson and their amount they've sold. We'll then switch to a matrix, which allows us to pull through a month, which then shows us at a month by month basis what the sales are for each salesperson. Similarly, we can also create cards which show one value within it as a quick at a glance view. So in this case, we can see that our amount there has pulled through correctly, and the movements within Power BI in order to design the page how you like has been modelled on PowerPoint, just to make it easy to drop and drag and create reports quite quickly. So now we'll show a chart instead, rather than through words, we'll show it in a picture format, and this is the months and the amounts sold. We can then also, once we're happy, create a phone layout for that. But do bear in mind that the visualizations on your report are the only visualizations that you can pull through onto your mobile version. So currently you cannot create new visualizations that don't appear on your report. They can only pull through from that report currently. So we've just pulled our cards through, and then we'll pull through our chart. And it's nice and flexible. You can drag it upwards so that it's taller and sideways so that it fits the whole screen. If we're not happy as well, we can move that. It's quite flexible. And then we'll just add in our matrix table there. Okay, so once we're happy with our mobile phone layout and our report layout, we can then go back to our desktop layout. And then when we're completely happy, we can publish that to Power BI online service. So we'll click publish on the home ribbon, and we'll select the workspace. In this circumstance, we'll put it into customer day. You can have multiple workspaces and share out different reports with different areas and faculties of your company. So this not only publishes the report itself, it also reports the dataset underneath, which allows you to flexibly create other reports using the same dataset. So once that's been uploaded and confirmed, we can open that in Power BI Online. And as you can see, once it's loaded, it looks pretty much how it did within our desktop version. Also, this is how it will look on a mobile version. The app is compatible with all Android phones and also the iPhone. So we'll just go into our workspace, just clicked on Customer Day, tapped on Reports, and we'll go to the Customer Day demo. So we can see it in its normal form, and it's very tactile. You can scroll and move across the matrix there quite easily. You can also scroll up and down the page. You can also select individual months, as you can see, January and September. It then also amends any of the other visualizations on your report, but they can be tailor-made. And then you can also view it in landscape mode, which then shows you the report as it would look on a desktop. So we've selected September. We can also add in comments to our report, and anyone that is shared with, we can share that with them in case there's any data anomalies that we want to investigate. And the nice thing is, when you see that comment as a viewer, it will actually hone in on how your user who commented had selected certain areas of visualization. So in this case, if I were to have a look at that, it would show the September bar selected so that I would know exactly where the anomaly was, so that I could investigate that further. You also get nice tooltips as well for Power BI. Okay, so moving on to pricing. For JET reports itself, you can create JET reports within Excel and also use Excel formulas to assist with further storytelling. So the JET report starter package will cost $3,495 plus $175 per month subscription. And that includes one JET connector, which allows you to connect through to your BC or NAV, 2 designers to allow you 2 users who can create the JET reports, with unlimited viewers who can view those created reports, and also the JET hub that sits on the back end. Alternatively, if you do have larger data sets and are processing and creating lots of transactions in a day, JET Analytics allows you to have 6 out-of-the-box OLAP cubes for sales, finance, inventory, purchasing, AP and AR. And it's also got pre-aggregated data to actually calculate sums a lot quicker than it would in JET reports. So things such as how much have I sold this year versus how much I sold last year. It's also fully customizable as well, so we can add in extra cubes for you, and we can also add in your bespoke fields. So the JET Analytics starter package is $8,995 plus $425 per month subscription. That includes one Analytics Jet connector into BC or Nav, 2 designers to allow you to create reports via 2 of your users, and unlimited viewers who can view those, and also a Jet hub on the back end. Moving on to Power BI Pro license. It allows you to have access to publish your Power BI datasets and reports onto the Power BI online service, and also share that out amongst users within your organisation who also own a Power BI Pro license. It's all cloud-based storage, and at the moment per user there is a maximum size of 1 GB per individual dataset and a maximum storage of 10 GB per user. This means that if you've got a dataset that was a gigabyte, you could then have a maximum of 10 datasets up to the storage amount of a gigabyte each. And again, you also get Power BI Mobile access via the app, and that was via the Android store and also the Apple App Store. The cost for that is a one-off connection setup to Business Central, which is a half a day for a consultant. Please contact your account manager for further information on pricing. And then there is the £7.50 per month per user who has the Power BI Pro license. So we've covered the considerations and consequences when designing our reports, and hopefully it gives you an idea of whether Jet or Power BI or the two together are a solution for your company, and also the pricing